Every year, thousands of human remains are found in the United States, and in one of every 4 instances, authorities can't identify the body. That's starting to change. I'm Dave Killen, co-host of The Unidentifieds, a new limited series podcast from the Oregonian and Oregon Live. We go deep into several cold cases and explain the science that's helping experts give these long-forgotten people their names back. Look for The Unidentifieds after you've finished listening to this podcast. Subscribe to The Unidentifieds on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to Peak Northwest, an outdoors and travel podcast by the Oregonian and Oregon Live, dedicated to the adventure and exploration of our beautiful Pacific Northwest. I'm Jamie Hale.
And I'm Vicki Connor. Together, we take you to some of the most beautiful and interesting destinations in our region, discussing where to go, what to do, and places to see. And Jamie, this week, we're headed right back to the Central Oregon coast, where you recently had what looked like a very cool but very rainy trip.
Yeah, it was what I called my dreamy trip to Yachats in the rain. You can't plan for weather on the coast. Or anywhere really, but especially on the coast. And sometimes you expect it to be this beautiful sunsets and hikes and sunny days, and it just pours down rain. And that's exactly what happened to me in Yachats.
Oh gosh. What brought you out to the coast, and where exactly did you visit?
Well, okay, so I first went to Yachats back in must have been 2014 or so, when I first started doing this job, doing travel reporting, and really loved it. And over the years, I've been kind of just going back here and there. Every time I'm driving down the coast, I stop in town and get some fish and chips, my favorite fish and chip spot, or stay the night and check out the tide pools at sunset, or any number of things there. And I really have been meaning to take a trip back there. So when I found out about Jamie Kish, who's a tide pool ambassador who we spoke with on last week's episode, I reached out to her to see if she would give me a tour of some tide pools for a story. And she said, yeah, definitely. And so this trip was sort of centered around tide pools and when the low tide was going to be. So because of that, I wasn't really planning around like when's the best weather, but like when's the next good low tide to go exploring. And that happened to fall over Easter weekend.
I also know that you are a huge lover of the coast. So is it kind of the thing where like even rain or shine, you are enjoying yourself even in blustery conditions?
To a certain extent. I mean, I much prefer to be able to be outside and comfortable. I'm not a grizzled fisherman. I'm not out there in my rubber rain pants, waist deep in the water. That's not me. I like to be comfortable. But I also like to embrace what the coast is. And that is sometimes really beautiful and sunny, and that is sometimes really rainy. So, that's kind of what I was thinking about as I was packing for this trip, because I went with, Sadie, my partner. It was her first time to Yachats, and one of her first, probably her third or fourth time to the coast. So we were packing, and, I was like, we really got to make sure to bring rain gear, but also t-shirts, but also thermals, but like maybe sandals. She's like, should we bring our bathing suits? And I was like, no, but maybe just in case is a good luck charm. So we packed like a little bit of everything. The forecast did call for rain. We were kind of expecting it, but I was like, it's the coast. Anything can happen. It can be rainy one second and can be beautiful the next. I've had that experience so many times out there. So we got in the car and we drove off to Yachats, expecting the unexpected. And we got down there. It's about a 3.5 hour drive, I want to say, out to Yachats from Portland. So it's a little bit of a drive. And we pulled into town, and it was not raining, but it was definitely very gray, very misty. So we took that opportunity to sort of be in town, to be outside, and to sort of get what we could while we were there.
I have driven through Yachats once, And basically when I was driving back from Bandon to go back up to Portland, and I was like, oh, I'll just drive up the coast. So I've driven through and I've seen that Yachats is super cute, and I told myself I want to go back and like actually explore. So I'm excited to hear what you all got into.
Yeah, well, so for folks who haven't been to Yachats, it is, it's situated right there on Highway 101. It's like, maybe a few blocks of shops and restaurants that are just on either side of the highway. And it's on this rockier part of the coastline. So there's not a ton of beaches. There is a beach there, but that's really only accessible at all during low tide. So it's really sort of like a low tide spot. But what I love about Yachats is that all the shops, all the restaurants, they're always full. They're always, you don't see a lot of empty storefronts. The vibe there is really, really good. The community is very tight. They very much seem invested into the community of Yachats, and that shows. So, when we got into town, we went right to obviously my favorite fish and chip spot, a place called Luna Sea. Funny play on words. And when I first started going there, almost a decade ago, it was like one tiny restaurant with a few tables inside, and it has since really exploded into. They have a covered, heated outdoor seating area. They've got picnic tables. They've got a whole downstairs. It's just sort of like, exploded, and there's all kinds of places to sit. There's tables are full. It's really become a super popular spot, which I'm so happy to see because their fish is excellent. It's like that classic Oregon Coast beer batter fry with not a small cup, but a full, huge squeeze bottle of tartar sauce. They just plop there on the table for you. That really makes it for me.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that is the best. I'm all about the sauce. So that's a selling point for me. So you got Luna Sea for some delicious fried fish. Tell me about like the different shops there, and what else you can kind of explore in those storefronts.
Yeah, well, it's such a walkable town, which I like too. Again, it's not very much to it. So you can just spend an afternoon walking around all the little shops, but they were all so interesting. So one of the first ones that caught our eye was a record store. Sadie and I are both big, vinyl record people. And so we saw a sign for a place called Perpetua Records, which was above a guitar shop. So we walk into this guitar shop with like guitars hanging everywhere, and we head up the stairs, and it's like, it was the grooviest loft I'd ever seen. With like posters and like a couch and music playing and like all these vintage clothing on racks along the wall, and like, colored sunglasses and stuff like that. So cool. Sadie immediately was drawn to all of the vintage jumpsuits and dresses and was trying all those on. I was flipping through all the records. She got a jumpsuit. I did not find any good records. And, but it was like I probably spent like 45 minutes in there. Like exploring. Such a cool way to just spend a day. And, the guy in there was really nice, and we were able to have a nice conversation. So we checked out that place. We found a few other little kind of art shops that were in the area. This place called Yachats Blooms. It was like this little tiny shop that had flower arrangements and local art, handmade gifts. They had like these little ceramic slug magnets that were like clinging to the side of tin buckets. Super cute. There's of course antique shops. Yachats Mystic Antiques I really liked in particular. A couple of like rock shops, rocks and fossils. There's Planet Yachats is sort of like the old one. And this newer spot called Sticks, Stones, and Bones that had like this Easter egg hunt going on in the parking lot. So it was just full of people and full of kids and a little too much activity for like my liking. But so we just walked around to all these cute little shops, so all different kinds of stuff. I love doing that and talking to the store owners and getting a feel for the town. Everyone was just in really good spirits. Easter weekend is apparently a very slow weekend on the coast, or in Yachats at least. And so they were saying like, it's a slow weekend. There's not a lot of people around. So we kind of had aside from the the rock shop, we had a lot of these places to ourselves, which is, it was interesting. It was, I kind of felt like I wished for the businesses that they had more people, but at the same time, it's nice to sort of have your own quiet space and to do your own thing. So that was a really good opportunity to sort of get a sense of the town. And we decided to, before we checked into our hotel, to obviously get an ice cream cone.
Obviously.
I mean, I know it was like gray and a little misty and like 50 degrees, but I mean, come on, you're at the coast. You gotta get an ice cream cone. Yeah. So we stopped off at this place called Topper's Ice Cream and Candy, and got a pair of cones and hung out outside. It was like this cute little crew outside of like, dads and kids, and me and Sadie just like, hanging out, eating our ice cream cones together. It was really, really cool.
Oh my gosh. Any flavor recommendations from Toppers?
I mean, I got a classic strawberry, which I don't usually go for. Okay. Really liked it. I don't remember what Sadie got. It might have been something with like a toffee crunch or something along those lines. I mean, I love all ice cream flavors, is the truth. I play no favorites. It's just whatever my heart wants in the moment.
Totally. I'm also a firm believer that there is no bad time nor weather for eating ice cream.
Wow.
All time is a great time.
So glad we're in agreement on this.
So when you visit Yachats, do you have a go-to place where you stay?
I do. And that's not something I can say about many other places in Oregon, but I came across this place called the Drift Inn. It's, as I understand it, it's like an old saloon and brothel that they've turned into. On the first level is a restaurant, like a full restaurant and bar. And then upstairs is this series of quirky rooms that are all kind of like detached. It's like all these various outbuildings on the roof of this building. And they're all like, each room has its own decor, its own theme. They're all very colorful and whimsical. So I've stayed in a few of those over the years. Like I like to try a different one when we go. This time we stayed in a place called A Most Charming Space was the name of the room. And wouldn't you know it, it was a most charming space indeed. It had such a good view, looking out over that beach I mentioned that is uncovered at low tide. These sort of big windows right there, and had like a day bed couch situation, and then a separate bedroom, and like like a full kitchen setup. So it was like a really nice spot to spend time in the room, which was great because we were about to do a lot of that.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be a brothel, right? So the way that it was set up, like, did they have old pictures or anything?
No, the Drift Inn sort of leans more into sort of, more modernish quirks. It's like in the restaurant, their thing is that they have a lot of umbrellas hanging from the ceiling. That's like their decor. They're not trying to go for like the Wild West saloon vibe. You can kind of like see it through the decor, but that's not really what they're going for.
Got it. Okay. Well, it seems really cool. Do you know when this building was constructed or built?
So the Drift Inn says that they were built in 1929. It was all kinds of different things. Like it was an ice cream parlor during Prohibition. It was a dance hall. It had all kinds of stuff, but it's been around for a while. And that's sort of, it's become sort of an institution in town. And I like that. And the great thing is it's located again, right downtown. So it's that fish and chip spot, which is right next to the ice cream spot, which is a block from these shops, is right across the street from this hotel. So park your car and then you can just walk around and don't have to worry about driving anywhere for the most part.
Anything else that you got into on Saturday?
Yeah, it was like our good weather day, I guess. So we were really trying to do what we could. So there was, I had on my itinerary a lot of hiking, but I wanted to check out this place that I had not been to in a while. It's a trail, and I'm going to say it and then I'm going to spell it for you because it's a bit it doesn't might not make that much sense. The trail is called the Yachats Trail, and that's spelled YA''XAIK, which is a trail that was created by some locals in collaboration with the two tribes that are there on the coast, on the Central Coast. And it is a trail that is designed to recognize the history, the unvarnished history of indigenous peoples on this coast, specifically their interactions with European settlers when they came. So it's obviously not a great history at that part of it anyway. There's a lot of bloodshed, a lot of forced removal, but all of that is sort of just laid out on these informational placards along the trail. It's a short trail. I think it's only about a half mile or so each way. But you really get an idea of the history of this area through that. And I think that's a fabulous thing that they do.
And so where exactly is this trail, like, in relation to where you were staying?
It's just like on the north edge of town. So if you're driving in US 101, right when you start getting into Yachats, there is this group of art galleries on the left. And just about a block from there, there is this an apartment complex. And if you go into the apartment complex at the back, there is a trailhead. It's like a designated trailhead parking. And that's where the trail is. So it technically does connect to some other trail networks around town. Yachats has a really great interconnected network of trails that go out to the coast and up into Cape Perpetua. You can hike for miles and miles and miles through town. And this is just one small arm of that.
And about how much time did it take you all to do this trail?
Not very long. We probably maybe took 45 minutes or so. So what we did is we hiked the trail to the end, and at the end of it, it connects to another trail that goes through this place called the Gerdeman Botanical Preserve. And it's a private property that has public access, where it's like this couple who had planted a bunch of various plants around the world. And you can hike through and see different species of rhododendrons or interesting plants, all kinds of stuff. Cool. And then that trail ends right at those art galleries. So we popped into an art gallery there, and which I loved as well, Earthworks Gallery, and checked out all the different kinds of art they had there, and then just walked along sort of the grassy shoulder of the freeway right back to the apartment complex and back to the car. Mm-hmm. So it probably maybe took an hour or so to do that whole thing.
Were there any other trails that you wanted to do afterwards, or was that your hiking for the day?
That was, at that point, it was starting to get a little bit dark, and we were like, let's get some dinner. Let's call it a day. We've got a couple more days here to do anything. So we headed over to Yachats Brewing, which is, again, one of these hubs in town. It's a newer restaurant, but it's a brew pub that does really interesting food, and they do their own in-house beer, obviously, and also they brew kombucha there. They have cider, all kinds of stuff. We got couple of these mushroom meals. Like there was it was sort of like crab cakes, but done with mushrooms.
Wow.
And we got like a melt with like a mushroom melt that were both really interesting. So it's such a cool opportunity to go and get some like classic fried fish, but then to get some like weird mushroom dishes too. Yeah. I love the diversity.
That's awesome. So that was pretty much all of day one, arriving, exploring, doing a little hiking, jam-packed. And then wow. Seriously. And so from my understanding, the next day was tide pooling with Jamie Kish. Is that right?
Yeah. We woke up on Sunday morning. It's Easter Sunday. And it was raining sideways. It was really like, it wasn't just like the faint mist, like classic Oregon mist. It was really raining. But we were like, well, what are you going to do? So we drove over to this place called Bread and Roses Bakery to start the day. And it is truly one of my favorite small town bakeries in Oregon. It is spectacular. It's only open a few days a week, but if you're driving through Yachats on the weekend, you got to stop by Bread and Roses. It's so good. Get anything there. It's all good.
Oh, okay.
They did not have an indoor seating area, and we were like not going to sit outside, so we ate in our car and drove over and did tide pooling with Jamie. Again, listen back to the episode we put out last week for more about tide pooling. But suffice to say, it was a really interesting, fascinating, very cool experience, but it's also very wet and windy. And by the end of it, we were very happy to be back inside the warm car.
I bet. Oh gosh. Did you feel like was there any way of dressing properly for that, or were you just soaked and moist?
Yeah, like I just wore clothes I was going to change out of later. Like I had my rain shell on and like the line, all the rain gear, and just both like with pants. I mean, unless you're wearing like rain resistant pants, they're just going to be wet. And you just, I was just like, and being on the coast when you're like in the windy rain like that, one half of your body gets wet and the other one does not as much. So it was just like the back of my legs were soaked. But it was a very cool experience. We went down to Bob Creek Beach, which is just like a 10-minute drive south from Yachats. Jamie had said that's like a great spot to go. So we followed her lead and had a really cool time. But by the time we were finished, we were like really finished. So we drove back to the hotel to dry off. And as we did, the rain really just got more intense. It started to really, really blow even more sideways, to the point where we were like, that's probably it. That's probably it for going outside today.
Yeah. Man, I hope you were able to get something warm, change clothes, and just be dry after that.
Well, Sadie had her jumpsuit she just bought the day before, which was sort of like this bigger, like baggier, like something that's really cozy. And so she changed immediately into that. I just got into like my PJs and we, cuddled up on the couch and just like, read books and talked and played music and took it easy until the only thing that got us out of the room that day was our stomachs, because we were there to eat at the restaurants, and that was a hard thing to be so cozy and to say, well, but let's get back on like our wet rain gear and go back outside. But the nice thing about being at the Drift Inn and the nice thing about Yachats is that everything was so close. So we put on our clothes and literally just kind of like jogged across the street, and found lunch at this really cool place called Beach Street Kitchen. And it's one of the newer restaurants in town. They opened in like the end of 2019. Tough time to open a restaurant. And so they just recently, I want to say like last winter, started doing in-person dining again. So I'd not been there. Obviously we went there and we had a really good lunch. They had some just sort of like some basics that were really good. They had some like breakfast burritos, some tacos, some good coffee drinks and chai and that sort of thing. Really had a nice time. So we had lunch and hustled back over to the hotel room and stayed there until dinner, when we were like, you know what? I think the move here is just to literally go downstairs and eat at the Drift Inn's restaurant. So that's what we did. We walked like, I don't know, like 20 yards. And then we went down the set of stairs and we were inside the restaurant basically.
There you go.
It was perfect. They had like a little folk band playing.
Cute.
We got a pizza and a salad and a cobbler at the end, a Marionberry cobbler that was, scoop of ice cream in there. It was great. It was exactly what you want at the end of a rainy day.
At the end of a rainy day, nothing sounds better to me than some cobbler with a wow.
Yeah.
I'm really happy for you all that you got to experience. Oh gosh. Okay, so you had your very rainy day on day 2. What was day 3 like for you?
Well, it was, again, a day that I had planned to sort of wake up, maybe go do some hiking, and head out of town in the afternoon. But we woke up again and it was still raining sideways. Like it was somehow like it didn't get any better or worse really from there. So we again put on our now mostly dry rain gear and hustled across the street in a different direction to go to this place called Green Salmon, which is a really great breakfast and coffee spot. They have a really robust food menu and like some really interesting different kinds of coffee and tea beverages. So we went to Green Salmon. Sadie got granola, I think. I got some kind of breakfast sandwich on a bagel, I believe. And we sat there and just kind of contemplated what to do from there. Obviously, a lot of stuff I wanted to do, we weren't going to do. And so, we kind of just figured, well, I guess that's it. At one point I said, do you think if we sit here long enough, the rain will stop? And Sadie said, I mean, eventually, like as if to say like in, I don't know, a few days, a week, I don't know. Who knows when this rain's going to end? We don't have that kind of time. So we went back to the hotel, we packed up our stuff and we made the drive home.
Oh gosh. Well, that darn sideways rain really throwing a loop in the plans, but I assume that there's lots of stuff that you didn't get to. So any recommendations or things you would like to do next time while you're there?
Well, we talked about the hike trail. There's also the Amanda Trail in town, which is similarly a trail that talks about Indigenous history there. Really, really cool spot. Definitely would recommend checking it out. And it's one that you can walk to from that beach, that low tide beach. You can walk on the Amanda Trail through this area, through the forest, and up to Cape Perpetua. It connects all the way through. And Cape Perpetua itself is a really, really cool spot. So much to do there. You can spend a whole day or more exploring Cape Perpetua. They have tide pools. Yeah. They have a thing called Thor's Well. They have, all these chasms and spouting horns, and there's an enormous tree in the campground. Just like, and there's backcountry trails. You could do backpacking there, in the deep forest. So there's just like all kinds of stuff you can do there. Highly recommend Cape Perpetua. And then there's, as I talked about the trail network in Yachats, there's a trail called the 804 Trail that runs through most of, if not all of the town on the ocean side. And it's a great way to sort of walk along the ocean, walk through the neighborhoods. I love to do this in the evening time, or you can do it in the morning. When you just get sort of that nice, calm feeling of just walking through town. Maybe the wind is not blowing. Maybe it's not raining. Maybe there's some flowers blooming. And you can sort of get a sense of that rocky coastline, dive down into the tide pools and poke around a little bit. It's such a fun thing to do. So those are all things I wanted to do that I have done before, but recommend highly if you're in Yachats and it's not pouring down rain.
Yeah, hopefully better luck with the forecast next time you're there. Well, I am excited to sometime soon hopefully get back to Yachats. Last time I was there, I did stop at Thor's Well and the Spouting Horn, and that was so cool. So I know it's just the tip of the iceberg of things to do in that area.
Oh, and it's just one little spot in the Central Coast, just one tiny little area, and there's so much concentrated in Yachats. Well, folks, until next time, you can watch our videos on the Oregonians YouTube channel and view all of our travel and outdoors coverage on OregonLive.com/travel, as well as HereIsOregon.com.
Please leave us a rating or review if you enjoy the show. And if you want to support this podcast as well as our local journalism, please consider a subscription to Oregon Live. You can find details at OregonLive.com/pod support. Also, if you're a fan of the show and you're interested in potentially sponsoring it, you can get in touch with our marketing people at advertise@oregonian.com. This episode of the show was produced by me, Vicki Connor, alongside Jamie Hale.
Stay safe and happy travels, everyone. Until next time, we leave you with this. 10 seconds of Zen.